What if I told you that one of the most elaborate crimes in history wasn't a heist, a murder, or even a robbery, but a psychological game? It's a quiet evening in Japan, 1984. A man is at home, relaxing in his bath, completely unaware that in just moments his life and the lives of thousands will be turned upside down. Suddenly, masked intruders burst in, drag him out, naked and terrified, and vanish into the night. But this isn't just any man. He's the owner of one of Japan's most beloved candy factories. And this isn't just any kidnapping. It's the start of a twisted game. A game where the rules are written by a shadowy figure who calls themselves the Mysterious Man with 21 Faces. Over the next year and a half, this criminal mastermind would send shockwaves across Japan. They would demand millions, set factories on fire, and threaten to poison the very sweets that children adored. They would send over 28,000 letters to the police, taunting them, mocking them, and daring them to catch up. But here's the thing, no one ever did. 130,000 police officers were deployed. Countless clues were analyzed. Yet the mysterious man with 21 faces remained untouchable. So who were they? A disgruntled employee? A Yakuza mastermind? Or something even more sinister? And why did they target candy, a symbol of joy, to spread fear across an entire nation? This is the story of a crime so bold, so bizarre, and so brilliantly executed, it left an entire country in fear and terror. On March 18, 1984, a Japanese man named Katsu Izaki was in his home enjoying an evening bath when suddenly, his house was stormed and he was kidnapped, completely naked. Izaki was the owner of a well-known candy factory in Japan called Glico. The following day, his factory received a ransom note. The criminals demanded 1 billion yen and 100 kilograms of gold, equivalent to $10 million US. They specified the ransom exchange would occur at a public phone booth on the street, but they would set the location. However, before the payment could even be made, Izaki managed to escape. With no one watching, he untied himself and broke out of the warehouse where he had been held captive. He ran until he found 2 railway workers who helped him contact the police. Izaki didn't know who had kidnapped him, what they looked like, or any identifying details. Although the kidnapping had failed, the criminals didn't stop there. They sent another threatening letter to Izaki and his company. In the letter, they warned that if they didn't receive $480,000, they would poison the candies produced by the factory with cyanide. To prove they were serious, they infiltrated the factory and set parts of it on fire. This sent shockwaves throughout Japan and led the police to deploy more than 130,000 officers in an effort to catch the criminals. The criminals were smarter than everyone, and the police had no clue who to suspect. In the 1980s, it was rare for a case to stump the police, as their statistics showed they solved 97% of murder cases and 55% of theft cases. But failing to solve the Glico case became a dark spot in their history and damaged their reputation. A well-known Japanese newspaper called Yomiuri published a large article on the front page, stating, "We don't remember a case in Japan's history where criminals outsmarted the police in such a way." The criminals were mocking the police openly, daring them to catch them. Over the course of more than a year and a half, the criminals sent over 100 letters to the police, taunting them and challenging their ability to capture them. The first letter they sent was written as follows: "To the stupid police, are you really this dumb? With all these officers, you can't even do your job and catch us. If you were truly professionals, you would have caught us already. But because you're useless, we'll give you some hints." The hints in the letter suggested the criminal could be someone from inside the factory, or that the warehouse where Izaki escaped from might have involved the people who helped imprison him. The letter also mentioned the color of the car used in the kidnapping, which was gray. Furthermore, they even gave the police the location of a supermarket where they had bought food after the kidnapping. At the end of the letter, they wrote, "If you can't catch us after all these clues, then you're just a bunch of thieves stealing money from people who pay taxes to keep you safe." Maybe we should kidnap your police chief next." This letter made the police look foolish in front of the public, as the criminals were daring them to catch them. After this letter, the criminals continued sending more messages, not only to the police, but also to the media. They had a unique talent for capturing people's attention, and they made sure their threats spread far and wide. The public in Japan followed the case as if it were a movie, and the letters they sent were filled with random information. However, none of the information proved useful to the police. The criminals wanted to mock the police and show how powerless they were, and they succeeded. Despite the constant taunting, the police did manage to identify one crucial detail from the letters: their dialect. The criminals' writing style seemed similar to the way people spoke in Osaka, a city in Japan. This clue was significant, but unfortunately it didn't help the police make any progress. After 3 months of investigation, the person sending the letters began referring to themselves as the mysterious man with 21 faces. Then, in September of 1984, another candy factory named Morinaga received threatening letters. The criminals warned that if they didn't pay $410,000, there would be consequences. The letter made a chilling claim to all the mothers in Japan: in the fall, when your appetite is at its peak, the candy will taste even sweeter. But we've added a special new flavor to Morinaga's sweets: potassium cyanide. It's bitter, but at least it won't cause cavities in your children's teeth. We've placed warning labels on the boxes so you can be cautious. The letter went on to say there were 20 boxes of candy on shelves from Hakata to Tokyo, and one of those boxes would contain poison. That very same day, store owners across Japan began finding boxes of candy with warning labels. In one supermarket, just 32 meters from Izaki's home, a box containing cyanide-laced candy was found. Fortunately, no one died, but it was clear the criminals weren't joking. The criminals sent another message, warning that next time they would release 30 boxes without warning labels, and that was when the fear began to escalate. In response, over 40,000 police officers were dispatched to monitor stores and supermarkets throughout Japan. However, the surveillance efforts didn't yield any results. The police couldn't determine if the criminals had gone through with their threats and actually poisoned 30 boxes of candy. They did, however, obtain a surveillance video from a store that had received a tainted box. The video showed a man with curly hair, wearing glasses and a baseball cap, placing something on the shelves. Despite the poor quality of the footage, the police released it to the public, hoping someone might recognize him. Along with the surveillance footage, the police also released recordings of threatening phone calls made to the factory. In the calls, the criminals instructed the factory to send employees to a public phone booth at a bus station and wait for a call. 2 undercover officers were sent, posing as factory employees, but when the time came, no call came through. The next day, another letter was sent to the police, mocking their attempt. "You think you're clever? Trying to trick us by sending 2 cops dressed as factory employees in blue suits?" We could tell by their eyes. They were full of deceit. The criminals seemed to always be one step ahead. What was truly maddening for the police was that despite all their efforts, no one had received a single dollar from the criminals, not even after more than a year. Then, on August 12, 1985, a year and a half after Izaki's kidnapping, the mysterious man with 21 faces sent their final letter, declaring that they were ending their campaign. By then, the national police and the media had received over 28,000 letters from the criminals, and over 130,000 officers had been involved in the case. The police had failed, and the public was aware of it. The revelation that they had received 28,000 letters with hints about the criminal's identity and still couldn't solve the case left the police embarrassed. At that point, the police had to admit they were at a loss. They proposed several theories about the criminal's identity. The first theory suggested that the criminal might have been someone from inside the Glico factory. They pointed to Izaki's escape from the warehouse, questioning how he was able to break free and run away while his own factory was only threatened, not attacked. On the other hand, the factory owned by Morinaga had actually been poisoned. Some speculated that the criminals' anger toward the food industry might stem from a tragic event years earlier, when a factory accident in 1955 led to the poisoning of milk powder that sickened 12,000 infants and caused 183 deaths. Could the criminals have been the children of those affected by this incident, seeking revenge? The final theory was even more shocking. It suggested a man named Manabu Miyazaki, a former member of a powerful Japanese Yakuza family, might be behind the entire operation. In 1984, when the threats began, he had demanded 100 million yen from a company, but when the police tried to apprehend him, he managed to escape. The police's sketch of the suspect looked eerily similar to Miyazaki, and when they showed the image to his mother, she immediately recognized her son. The connection between the Osaka dialect, the Yakuza ties, and the criminal behavior led the police to suspect Miyazaki was the mastermind. However, they couldn't prove it, and without hard evidence, the case remained unsolved. In the end, the public was left to decide. The case had become a national enigma, one that the police could not solve despite their best efforts. The criminals had managed to outsmart the police, making them look powerless in front of the entire nation. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Beyond the Crime for more mysterious tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, stay curious.